I'm in Clerks. I'm sure you guys have all seen that movie eventually in your lives. So I have been a huge fan of this guy forever. You know, me and my friends in high school used to watch these movies all the time. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Dogma. He's a riot to be around, and he is here with us today. We are lucky enough to have him for the next hour or so. So, with no further ado, everybody, Jason Mewes.
Hello. I like to eat ass. Sometimes I touch butts. Snooge. Snoogans. Anyway, sorry. That's always fun. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you're here for me. I see there's kids and stuff who probably have no idea who I am. It happens, and I always forget because I'm used to doing... Kevin and I do a podcast called Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. Thanks. And I also do my own Q&As now. I've been doing my own touring where I do. It's called. I don't even know what they call it. They fix it. It's called. It's something like J Mewes Musings. And I've been doing my own comedy clubs and stuff. My point in telling you that is I'm saying in Get Old and the solo acts that I do, they're usually at comedy clubs and everyone's 21 years or older, so I talk about my ball bag and my butthole and stuff like that. So when I'm at the cons, I always forget and I always hit the whole back because, I don't want to talk about my ball bags in front of this teenager here. I'm just kidding. He's young though, but anyway. He's like, I'm older than that. But I love this situation, always. Because then I can do stuff like, ooh, boobies. Boobies are good. Nah. But I won't do that too much because there's kids. Anyway, I just usually open it up for a little Q&A action. And hopefully we'll have fun. Hopefully you'll be happy you came here. I do appreciate, honestly, whenever I do the panels at the comic book conventions, my Q&As, my panels, whatever they call it a panel, I call it a Q&A. But anyway... I appreciate it because I know you could be on the floor waiting for Jason, David Frank, or something cool like that, watching. There's a game room over here, and there's a library, and there's all sorts of fun stuff to do, but you guys are here listening to me talk about my ball bag. So I do appreciate that. But I'll open it up for questions and Q&A. And does anyone here not know who I am, and they're just here because they're waiting for the next person, or were here before? Yeah, I know you. You stalk me. This one has been the 10 of my shows. She's always with her dad, and she's always being really inappropriate. And I can't go back with the inappropriateness because she's with her father, and it's weird. And then one time, me, her, and her father got wasted, and we just did stuff that was weird. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's not true. None of it's true. But anyway, we can open it up for Q&A if anyone has any questions or anything fun to ask. We met earlier today, yes? Yesterday? Yesterday. Is that yesterday? Yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away. No. Anyway, sorry. I felt bad today. I tried to be part of the thing, and I went to say, someone came up and needed sign language, and I went to say thank you, and I knew it was close, and I went like that. I did. So, but it's this, right? Yeah, thank you. I went to do thank you, and I went, I really didn't, and then afterwards, the person she was with was like, no, it's this, not that. Anyway, so it was pretty funny, but not funny, because I was like, I hope she realizes I didn't mean that. And there's a child, so, but yeah, any questions? Hopefully we have questions, because if not, we're going to run out of fun things to talk about, because I can only go for so long without questions. I mean, again, I could go longer if I could talk filthy, but I can't. 2 questions. So here, we'll go him first.
So when you were filming Jay and Silent Bob, and you were told that you guys were going to be fighting Mark Hamill, what was your reaction?
And this. I don't know if you know what that means. I'll just keep it at that. No, honestly, I was super stoked. I was nervous, but very, very excited, man. Because not only did we get to meet him, just meeting him. Let me go back. I'm going to go back and really go into this. So, because think about, like, when Kevin and I made Clerks, I was 17 going on 18, or somewhere around that age. But I worked a regular job roofing. Kevin worked at the Quick Stop. And I used to go help him Sundays do the Sunday paper, which is in Asbury Park Press. There's like, entertainment section, the coupons and freaking real estate and all these different sections. You had to put together this big Sunday paper, and he would have to have it ready by like 6:30 in the morning. So I was the only fool that would wake up at 5 in the morning and go help him. And I remember we would do the papers and we'd talk and hang out. We'd watch Silver Spoons and Degrassi, and eat cupcakes and stuff and free cereal after we were done. But anyway, I remember him telling me like, "Hey man, I'm going to write a movie, and I think you're funny, and I wonder if anyone else finds your weird humor funny like we find it funny. Like I wonder if the world will find the guy who yells, snooch to the nooch, I'll F anything that moves, funny as well." So I was like, yeah, whatever. So then he, months later, he gives me a script, and he's like, we're shooting. I'm going to, sell my comic book collection. He used his credit cards. I'm sure you heard the story. He's told it in his Q&As and all that. But my point in telling you that backstory is like I didn't plan on acting, and we shot the movie, and even after we shot Clerks, I went back to roofing, and him and Scott Mosier went to Sundance Film Festival and screened the movie and sold it, and then got the 3-picture deal. And he's like, I wrote you in Mallrats, I wrote you in Chasing Amy and Dogma, and it wasn't until Dogma that I actually stopped working roofing. Like Mallrats we did, I went back to work doing construction and stuff. After Chasing Amy, I started delivering pizzas and more construction. Because again, when you make a movie, it's funny. I remember after Mallrats came out, and it was in the theater, it was cool because the small town I grew up in, Highlands, people like go to the movies and see us in a studio movie, and they're like, oh my God, bro, how many houses you gonna buy? How many cars? And I'm like, bro, I got paid, after taxes and everything, it was like $7,000, which is great, but it wasn't gonna buy me 3 houses or anything. So I had to go back to work all the time. So, doing those movies, and then we got to Dogma, and that's when I got to stop working my normal job. But we worked with Alan Rickman and all these people. It's been surreal from the get-go. Even Mallrats, I got to meet Stan Lee and work with Shannon Doherty, and I watched 90210 when I was younger and stuff. So all that was super surreal to me, and as each movie went that we shot, Dogma, Linda Fiorentino, and Alan Rickman, and then, Chris Rock, all these people, that it was just super surreal to me, and it still is to this day, honestly, getting to work with, like just recently, I did Yoga Hosers with Kevin. I did one scene, I got to do a scene with Johnny Depp, which is crazy, and I just remember sitting there going like, oh my God, I'm about to do a scene with friggin' Jack Sparrow or friggin' 21 Jump Street's Johnny Depp. It's pretty surreal. So when I found out I was doing a scene with Mark Hamill, again, just getting to meet him and do a scene with him was super awesome. But then getting to know, I get the bong, technically it was lightsaber fighting, but not, it was bong saber fighting. It was super, it blows my mind still. Again, it blows my mind that you guys are here watching me when you could be hanging out with, Hulk Hogan or something. But it's been a super surreal situation over the past 20-something years that we've did a movie, and it got picked up by Miramax, and then Kevin put me in another movie, and then from there I got to do another indie movie, and then got to do this indie movie, and I've been able to tour with our podcasts and comic book conventions. So anyone I get to work with, it's been awesome. He's super nice. I remember I was super stoked because I worked with him there, and he was in a couple days because he was only in that one scene. There was the scene in the bong saber fight and all that. But then I remember my buddy set up this thing where I got to go on a private jet with Mark Hamill and a couple other people to go to San Francisco to see a screening of the new Star Wars movies, years and years and years ago when the new series came out. So I got to fly on a jet with him, and it was just like, it was awesome. Even though I had worked with him already, I got to sit in a jet with him and go see Star Wars, and I'm like, this is crazy. I was in the bathroom, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. That's me shaking, kids, you know, like shaking. But yeah, so it was awesome. It really was. And Carrie Fisher was awesome. Like, I'll never forget, and Kevin tells a better story because it was his perspective, but when we did Jay and Bob, I got sober, but then in my head, I was like, well, I can still drink. I'm not an alcoholic, even though I am. But at that point, I didn't think so. So I was like, as long as I'm not doing drugs, I can drink. So I was drinking almost every night after we'd shoot all day and stuff, and then I'd go out with these kids I met, and we'd go to clubs and dance and drink and stuff. And I came in hungover, and I was super obnoxious with her because, you know, we're driving in the car, and I go down and I say something. I'm like, well, then maybe I could do the rules of the road or whatever. And I remember a few times I was like, oh, I can smell it. You know, in the first time she was like, ha, 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 ha. But then, like, I was more obnoxious and more obnoxious. Finally, she was like, listen, stop. Like, it's not funny. And she like pulled me aside and was like, hey, I can smell the booze on your breath, you know. And she gave me this nice lecture. It wasn't a bad lecture, but Kevin even said he remembers looking in this grass field where we were shooting because they had trailers and we had to shoot in that long road with her. And he said he looked out and in the middle of this big grassy field, her and I are walking, and he just thought like, what the heck could Jay, Mewes, and Princess Leia be talking about in the grassy knoll and shit? But she was super sweet, was just saying like, hey, you know, over the years I've worked with people and done this, and just said really nice things, trying to be like, hey, don't, you know, you shouldn't drink every night. It's not going to lead anywhere. It's good. And I'll never forget that. It was super nice. So yeah, man, I was super stoked, but it really has honestly been like that, not just with him, when we found out Chris Rock, George Carlin, like, it's just been super awesome and surreal. All the different cool people, Will Ferrell. I mean, Will Ferrell and I remember at one point, so when we shot Jay and Bob, that CD just came out in that song, and I literally would play it every day. So like in the morning when you do a movie, you go in the trailer and the hair and makeup makes you up, and then you got to go over to wardrobe and put your costume on and stuff. But everyone that comes into work would be sitting in the trailer, so every day I would get in, I'd be like, can you play this? And they'd be like, oh, this again? But when people come in, like Will Ferrell would come in, and so he knew the song because he had to go like 2-3 days in a row. I was playing it when he came in. He's like, you're still playing this song? But it was that song, says you called me in the shower, wasn't me. And they called me in the bathroom, wasn't me, yeah. So that song was like stuck in my head, and we were about to do that scene, the like spoof on The Fugitive, where Silent Bob and Jay like run through the tunnel and jump out, and we're hanging there with the ape. But then Will Ferrell's character is like, whoa, and he runs and he goes after us, and he jumps past us. We were like setting up a light or something when we were getting ready to shoot it. So we're all standing around, and I was like, and that song, because I played it every day, was stuck in my head, and I was like, and she called me in the shower, all by myself. But it was awesome because all of a sudden, like, he grabs my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Will Ferrell, and he like grabs me, and him and I are like, it wasn't me. We start dancing together, and again, it was just one of those situations where I was like, oh my God, I'm dancing with Will Ferrell all the time. So yeah, it's been like that, and it still is like that. We'll see. You know, we get to, hopefully, if all goes as planned, we're going to shoot Jay and Silent Bob reboot in the middle or end of July. Everything's sort of coming together. We're super, super close on having all the money, locations, and all that type of stuff that has to be taken care of. And hopefully it does. And if it goes as planned, we'll start shooting in July. And there's a lot of really cool cameos, and the script's awesome, and we'll have so much fun. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll get a few more people, cast members, that I can be like, oh my God, it's him, it's her. So we'll see, but we'll update you. I know there's going to be some people. There's a couple scenes that have tons of extras, and like one-line speaking lines and stuff that Kevin, I know, had a contest, and he's also going to tweet and Facebook saying, hey, come out, we're going to be shooting here, and if you can get yourself out there, you can be part of the movie. So we'll see. Is that good? Thank you. You, sir, and then we'll go back to you. So Kevin and I grew up together in Highlands, New Jersey. We grew up in the same town, literally a block from each other. And his kid makes fun of us, not in a bad way, in a good way. She's like, oh my God, I wish I lived down the block from my best friend. Because it wasn't planned, honestly, but we grew up in Highlands a block from each other, and now in California we live a block from each other. He's lived in his house since '03, and I bought my house in like '06 or something. But it just happened when we were looking that we found this awesome house like very close to his. But anyway, we grew up in the same town, small town. Like in our school, for example, there was when I was a senior, there was 432 kids in the whole school, and there was only like 32 graduating seniors. So it was very small school, small town is my point. You knew everybody, and I knew who Kevin was, but he was older than me. I was a freshman and he was a senior in high school, so I only was in school with him for a year before he graduated. And then he started working at the community center in our town. And in our town, like all the kids, not all the kids, but a lot of kids that went to school, after school they'd go to this community center, and there was like foosball and pool, and the summers volleyball and all this stuff. Different things you can do, and that's where kids would hang out until their parents got off work and picked them up or what have you. Kevin worked there with Walt Flanagan from Comic Book Men and Brian Johnson. And so the three of them started working there. And so I didn't know Kevin. I knew him in high school as the dude. He did all the talent shows, and they were super funny. And he always explains that he knew who I was. Though there's that Mewes kid, he pulls his balls out, or he threw a rock through a window, so he knew me as the troublemaker in town. And I knew him as from school from that, but we didn't know each other, we weren't friends, we didn't hang out because he was older, but we lived the block. But he started working in the community center, and I would go there after school. And I started trying, him, Walter, and Brian would sit in the corner of the community center, and they would read comic books, and they would hang out and laugh and talk about movies and all that stuff. And I remember as a young kid, it was so appealing to me. And they would always play each other in foosball, and they were really good. And I'd always want to play them in foosball, and I'd always be like, "What are you reading? What are you reading?" And he said. The way he explains it is he just wanted they'd always want me to stop asking them a bunch of questions and harassing them. So they started giving me all their old comic books they didn't want. They had doubles of or whatever. So they give me 3 old Spider-Man comics and a double they had of the Incredible Hulk and the X-Men. And that's how I got into comic books. So I started reading them, and they were awesome. And I'd be like, "Hey, man, you have any more?" And they're like, "Nah, man, get out of here, kid." And then I'd be like, "I'll play you in foosball. If I beat you in foosball, then you got to give me a couple comics." And they'd be like, "All right, but if we win, you have to wear that shirt for a week." And I always wore my grandma, or whoever I was living with at the time, because I went from living with my aunt, my grandma, my mom. My mom would go to get hooked on heroin and stuff like that, and I lived with my grandma again. But anyway, they would take me shopping at Bradley's or Kmart, and they'd always have the glossy shirts that was Sports Hound, and it was a dog with a tennis racket, hockey stick, soccer ball and shit, really, really weird shirts. And they would be like, "You have to wear that Sports Hound shirt for a week." Anyway, so that's sort of when I started getting to know them more and stuff. But Kevin they never really wanted to hang out. And I knew Brian a little better because Brian Johnson was the same age as my brother, and he had come over to my house a couple times. So I knew him a little bit more, he knew me as Tony's little brother and stuff like that. So when they were going up to a comic book show, which is so crazy then, because comic book shows then, it was there were shows in New York in basements of churches, which literally the whole comic book convention would be the size of this room right here. And there'd be maybe 8 vendors or so. But it was huge. It was oh my God, that New York Comic Con's happening. I can't wait. And they were going up to New York, and I remember being like, "Brian, can I go up?" And to Walter, and they'd be like, "Yeah, sure, you can come up with us." And when they told Kevin was like, I'm not traveling with some kid that's underage over the state line to New York. And Kevin was supposed to drive. And so Brian was like, "Well, then I'll drive then. Who cares?" So Kevin couldn't say anything. And so they didn't really want me to go, but the whole ride up, He explains it that I was super obnoxious, my usual self, like yelling stuff out the window, like, hey baby, I've ever your butthole like by, you know, stupid stuff. And so he said that I sort of started to grow on him on this trip. He says that sort of, and I sort of grew on him a little bit. And he says what really sort of, then I would go to his house because we dropped him off. I think sort of like, to me it was sort of the doorway into his house. And so we all like stopped at his house and like we let him out and we talked outside for a minute. From there on out, like I would go to his house every couple of days and be like, hey bro, what are you doing? Like knock on his door and he'd be like, get out of here, we're not friends, bro. Like, well, Brian and Walt brought you to the comic convention, not me. And he says what finally did it, and he tells this story in his Me and My Shadow, I believe, is he said that one day he was sitting in the library of the community center reading comics with Walt and Brian, talking comic books. And I came in and I kicked in the door and I was like sucking on the flagpole and like took the stapler and I was like sucking on that. And then I like grabbed like a couple pencils and like anything that sort of looked sort of like, you know, that business. And he said that I got to the asteroids machine. And if you know what the asteroids has, one of those balls, like, you know. And he said I got to the asteroid machine and then I was like, and started doing it, and he said that he thought that was really funny. He said what he thought was funny is that when I was doing it, I really wasn't doing it and like looking at them like, hey, check me out, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. He said that I didn't pay attention, and even after I did the centipede thing with the ball, that I just then stopped and like left the room. And I realized, it's like years later, I realized in Clerks, I tell him, because when he gave me the script to Clerks, you know, that I was like, man, I can't do this. And he's like, what are you talking about? That stuff you say and you do, like, this is stuff in the past 4 years of us hanging out. These are things you've done, said, and act like. So what do you mean you can't say snoochie boochies? And why can't you, like, dance in front of the store? You do that stuff or tuck or do anything. He's like, you do that all the time. And I was like, yeah, but, like, now it's like, action, do it. Do it. And I realized I used to do stuff for myself because, for example, if I pull my ball bag out right now for this guy, he's either going to be mad, laugh, or be grossed out. But whatever his reaction is, I'm going to find it funny. I don't care what his reaction is, but I'm going to find it funny. And so I realized that's why I used to do stuff, and that's my point in telling you that, is that's sort of what I was doing. In the library when I was going around doing that stuff, it was because I'm like, this is funny, I'm going to do it for myself. And Kevin said that's what sort of made him be like, okay, this kid is funny and I do like him, even though he's 4 years younger than me, is because he's like, he just makes himself laugh, and he thought that was charming at the time. Again, I'm talking for him, but this is stories I've heard him tell, his perspective. But that's where we met, is again, we grew up down the street, but we started hanging out because of the community center and comic books, and then I started going to the store with them and helping him with the paper, and so we got even closer. And then he wrote the movie and put me in it and then stuff. So we just got closer and closer. But technically we met at the community center and started being friends there, so.
Any good George Carlin stories?
You know, not from me, man. I mean, just, you know, we did a few scenes. I was honestly, I was super intimidated by George Carlin and Kevin, because, you know, he was there maybe 2 days or so and for so many hours. But when we were there and shooting and doing our stuff, even though I was with them, I wasn't sort of with them because those two would be talking about like George's like stand-up, his book he wrote, like Kevin knew all that stuff. And they'd be like talking like, they'd be like, yeah, man, the fucking ostentation of the political demographic of, and like saying all these smart words and talking about stuff I had no idea about, politics and books and, well, his book. And so I just was like, I was sort of intimidated. So I would hang out and listen. Super nice guy, funny, like he would crack jokes and talk about stuff. But I didn't really get to interact with him myself. Like I never like got to sit to the side and be like, so George, you know, like, what do you think about Trump? Like I never got to really talk to him about stuff because I was intimidated by how, you know, the stuff him and Kevin would talk about and that type of stuff. But super nice. Same with Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman, I got to be I got to hang out with a little more because we went to London. We went to London a couple times for like our shows, and when he'd find out we were going, he'd invite us out to dinner and stuff like that, which was really sweet, super nice. But again, everybody, no funny stories, but everyone that I've got to work with, besides like the dancing with Will Ferrell, everyone's been super, super awesome. Like again, luckily I haven't had any interactions with anybody. Any harsh. Sometimes people will ask questions like, "Hey, but tell us a story about someone who wasn't nice. They were mean or whatever." No one's ever been mean. There's definitely people we've worked with that were less outgoing and not really want to hang out. Like I never really got to know Elizabeth Banks, not because she was mean or anything, but she would come do her work and then go in the trailer and same with. I've got to know her a little more now. But I remember Shannon Elizabeth, too, when we shot that movie, she was there with her husband, and like her and her husband would like huddle up and they'd be like, all right, so he was an acting coach. So it'd be interesting because he'd be like, I think you should give it more of this. And they would talk and they'd do the scene and then they would talk and then those two would go to their trailer and who knows what they were doing. So I didn't really, there's people like that who come to set and they go and they do come out and do their scenes. Then they go in their trailer or whatever, and then there's people who are like, "What are you doing tonight, man? Let's go bowling." And you get to hang out with like Eliza Dushku was like that. Like she hung out a bunch, and Joey Adams and Jason Leonidis. Mallrats is my favorite movie I've ever made because when we shot that, like literally everyone was like that, pretty much. That shot like it was cool because we'd all shoot. We all were staying in the same hotel. It's almost like a con. I feel like when you go to a con, like you meet all these people, you probably don't hang out with them after, but if they're all staying in the same hotel, everyone afterwards will go like hang out in the lobby of the hotel and talk and chill. Or if there's like, the clerk screening tonight and people will go hang out and drink together. It's like every night after we'd shoot scenes the day at Mallrats in Minnesota, everyone would meet back at the hotel because everyone was staying there. We'd all go swimming. There'd be like 20 of us swimming in the pool, in the hot tub. We'd hang out by the bar. There was like a piano, and a few people knew how to play piano, and they'd be like, boo-doo, boo-boo, boo-boo-doo. I always wanted to like go to a bar where it's crowded and be able to sit down at the piano and be like, boo-doo, boo-boo-boo-doo. And be playing, and there's a circle around me, and they're like, all of a sudden a girl gets on the piano. But I don't know how to play piano. So anyway, but there you go. Sorry, you had a question too. Yes, sir. Yes. Did you get to meet the Hulk? Hogan? Was it everything you hoped it to be? No? Does anyone have a story for me? No, I didn't get to meet him. But I always wonder, is there anyone here that you guys went to meet? Exclude me, because maybe you met me and you're like, he's an asshole. But is there anyone here that you went to go meet that you got to meet and it wasn't all you were cracking up to be? Hulk Hogan? You didn't have expectations. You just were like, yeah, he's cool. And he threw me in a hucklebuck. He threw me in the hucklebuck in the body slam. No? Look, you're all like climbing up now. You're all loud and shit. He came to my table. He's like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now he's like, oh, man, don't ask me shit, son. I asked the questions. No, Gary, what were you going to ask, though? But someone think of a story because I want to ask someone else's story again.
I don't even know how many people are aware of the show, but Clerks was supposed to become a live action series. And when they did it, I guess Kevin didn't even know about it. He didn't find out about it until the very last minute, and they didn't have the same actors, and he came on and tried to produce, and he hated it so much that he walked off, and it never materialized in the series. But I was wondering, your involvement with that?
I had no involvement. I know. So you're saying, again, I know part of this. You're saying at one point, I do remember there's whispers about them making the movie Clerks into a TV show. Yeah, I don't know. Same thing. I feel like none of us knew about it, and then all of a sudden it was happening. But none of us, I don't even think I was asked to audition, let alone get the offer to be Jay or something. So I'm not sure what happened with that, honestly. It sort of came and passed by. But I had no involvement. I think it'd be cool. I think Mallrats would be more fun, better. How do I word that? It would be a better series, a more fun, more enjoyable, No, I'm just kidding. Right? Mallrats, I think. But I could be wrong. Why, you think Clerks would be better TV show than Mallrats? No. They both were. Yeah, but the Mallrats would be like at the mall though, right? And you could have the stores, and then you could have like each store has a different character and different stuff happens. Someone poops on the dressing room floor. No. I don't. I wish I did, bro. I mean, again, I almost forgot until you mentioned it. But again, I feel like when that happened, it was like going on over here in the studios and stuff. And again, Kevin had no part of it, which then I had no part of it or anything. Like, they didn't really ask, I don't think, us to do anything. And then I remember Clerks was going to be, and I think they actually did do it locally. It was going to be a play, like the Broadway play and shit of Clerks. Seriously, I remember Kevin and I were somewhere and there was like a pamphlet, like, come see Clerks, the Broadway play. I've never got to see it then, and Orby, they never asked us to be part of it. Shit, I could have been like, hey, yeah, snooch to the motherfucking news. Right? I could have been that shit on the, no. Your face is so like, I don't know if you're smiling, happy, or not. I'm moving on, bro. You're making me nervous. Someone else had a thing. Right there, you did, brother. What's up? Has anyone, any female that I've actually been hanging out with on the intimate level asked me if I was the commander? They have not. That would be awesome. It would be awesome. But I think that over the years, honestly, like, I don't know if I'm trying to think about, like, I feel like a lot of the girls, maybe they didn't play it all. Like, I don't think I've ever dated anybody that was like, oh my God, I love your movies and I love this movie, Snooch the Nooch, and like quoted. I feel like I've either met people who didn't know or they played it off and didn't tell me they knew. I mean, I'm sure there was a few. Like on Mallrats, I know there was a few extras in the movie, but the movie wasn't out yet. And we only had done Clerks, so it wasn't like, and then I feel like Chase and Amy, I'm in one scene, I was strung out on drugs really bad back then. Dogma, I met a girl and I was dating her for a couple years, and she didn't care about the movies, like she didn't know much about them. And then the girl after that, I was strung out. She didn't know anything about the movies. My wife doesn't like the movies. My wife doesn't think I'm funny, I don't think at all. Seriously, she really doesn't. I think she thinks I'm funny, but in other ways. But she gets really embarrassed by me, by certain stuff. Yeah, so she's always trying to get me to do better. She'll always be like, why don't you, like, I've been doing I told you my own, I just talked to her a couple hours ago. And she was like, hey, you know, I just booked like 4 more, 5. It's awesome. And I guess, I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything yet, because I don't know if it's been announced or set in stone. But we'll keep it here, hopefully. Because I don't know if I'm allowed to say yet, but I just got, I'm going to be performing at a New York comedy festival, which I guess is pretty big. Kevin did it last year. It's a pretty big sort of honor to be able to be part of it. And so, like, she hooked that up, and then she's like, oh, I just hooked up 4 more gigs in, you know, August or whatever, and we were talking about that. She's like, but I really think you should, her and her friend went to a comedy show last night. She's like, oh, Mason was there, and I really think you should meet up with Mason. He's a friend of ours who's written for SNL and written for a bunch of, he used to write for the Andy Milonakis show. I don't know if you know what that is. Andy's a buddy of mine. But anyway, she's like, you should meet with him, and he can write. I'm like, well, what do you mean, though? Have you even watched my Q&A/stand-up show yet? Like, why are you telling me that I need a writer? I think it's funny enough, and it's good. She's like, well, you haven't listened to it, and it could take some more laughs. Like, again, she's not really a fan. She's trying to get me to get a writer for my Q&A, which is sort of this, but when I do that, it's a longer show, and so the first 20 minutes, I sort of tell some stories and stuff without the Q&A in, and then, like, the second half of the show, then I open it up, same as this. But again, I try to drag on my stories. It's not just like, hey, you know, I used to do that. If you watch any of the Kevin's Q&A specials back in the day, I realized I used to get real nervous because Kevin would talk literally for 45 minutes straight, and then he'd be like, all right, next question, and someone would be like, I have a question for Jay, and I'd be like, oh, what, me? And they'd be like, yeah, you know, even though 5 questions before that would be for Kevin, it was his show, but he would pull me up on stage. And then someone would ask me something, they'd be like, well, what did you think about working with, whatever, George Carlin? I'd be like, he was great. Thanks. You know, and that would literally be it. And you know, so after a while of work, like seeing Kevin do his Q&A and how even if I don't have a lot to say about George, I can bring it into other avenues. And so anyway, but yes, but my wife's funny because she's like always trying to be like, even, and it's funny too because there's stuff people will ask about Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. A portion of our show is me, Kevin and I catching up, but like, hey, what have you been up to? I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Oh, guess what? You know, I got a massage the other day, and the girl was touching my balls and did this, and I wasn't sure if she wanted to do this, a happy ending, and then she offered, you know, whatever. We sort of tell stories about what happened and stuff. But then I also, there's a portion of the show where I tell a sex story, and usually now it involves my wife. It used to involve, like, you know, my past situations, and then I sort of ran out of those, and then it's now been, you know, we've been doing the show 7 years, and I've been with my wife the whole time. So, but it's funny because people are like, hey, does she care? And I tell them now, it's again the beginning she did, but it's funny now because now I'm not kidding you. Let's say if we're doing something, and again, I'm trying not to be too graphic, I know there's kids, but let's say we're doing a situation and maybe something falls out and stuff flings places. She'll be like, don't forget that. You got to tell that story on the podcast. It's funny. She'll like mention stuff like that. The only thing she ever doesn't want me to say, and she'll still say it now, is she'll be like if she's ever walking and she'll be like, don't you say anything about that. Like, she doesn't want anyone to think at all that she ever busts wind or anything. I'm like, come on, who cares? You know, it's like you just frumped one out, a big one. Anyway, oh, I forgot we were having some fun here, huh? So how do you say bust wind? Fart. Oh, it's this. Nice. You got a little red, and you're not even saying it. I'm saying it, but you're repeating it, and it's making you red in the face. How amazing. All right, next. Neil. No, don't tell me your name. I know it. It's Neil. Niall. No. Damn you. No. Niall, and then you, someone over there. But you go first, sir. No, I would say, I was trying to, I feel like, I think if anything it's better because I feel like now it's been like I'm more alert and aware and stuff, and I'm not focused on drugs. Like, I feel like especially when I was actively using it, like on Dogma I was using, and it's also, it's funny because it's crazy, when we did Clerks, I was smoking and drinking a bunch, but again, I hadn't like run into like the everyday problem and such. Mallrats, I was completely sober because you can't, like, it was the first studio movie, and you can't drink or anything because they, because of the union, and there's insurance out on you if someone breaks their leg and the movie has to shut down. So, they were super like, hey, you can't drink, man, you can't drink. So I didn't even drink on Mallrats. I was super sober. And then Chasing Amy, I was strung out. Like, I was in pretty bad shape on that movie. Not the day of shooting, but I'm just saying, like, at that point I had been using for a bit, but I had something. But on Dogma, like, the problem is when you use, I don't know if you use an upper, when you come down, you feel like crap. You want to do more to get back up to there. If you're on opiates, you physically get addicted, and if you don't have it, you start physically like withdrawn and feel like crap. So my point is like on Dogma, like there'd be days where I would use before I'd come to work and start coming down, and I would want to get more. And if I didn't have any more, I'd be like, oh, the person's going to come in an hour and meet me here. But I would focus on that the whole time. But what's crazy is after all the movies, people are like, man, Dogma's your best work so far, man. You did great. In my head, I was like, are you sure? Like, I was a mess. I felt a mess. Again, I'm not saying I didn't necessarily, I was able to do the scenes. And again, the good thing about Dogma is I had memorized the whole script. because when we were there, Kevin got me so nervous about Alan Rickman and was like, man, you can't be like snooching, booching, and I forgot my words and stuff, like you did on Mallrats. Not that I did it a bunch on Mallrats, but I was still nervous, and again, it was only our second movie. The first one was like a bunch of friends. Now all of a sudden we have all these studio people, and we're working with Shannon Doherty and Stan Lee. And then Chasing Amy, we did the one scene with Ben, but he's like, man, this is like, we got Alan Rickman, he's serious, and this is a serious Chris Rock. He's like, so you can't be messing around. And I was getting sober, so I had gotten sober off drugs to Pittsburgh, like while he prepped and stuff. Everyone else came up 2 weeks before. I came up 2 months so I could be with Kevin. He could keep an eye on me, and I was getting sober, and I was. But then after like a week into the movie, I met a girl. I started dating her, and she actually was like, hey, you want a bump? And then she's like, hey, I have these things, OxyContin. Do you know what they are? I'm like, no, I've never heard of those. But really I had, and I didn't tell her that I was strung out, and I'm sober now and everything. So anyway, I'm saying I fell really quick and during the shooting. But my point in all that is before that I was there sober, but I had to stay close to Kevin because I was newly sober. And so I had 2 months of doing nothing while he was at the office being like, let's put everyone in this wardrobe, and then we're going to do this. And, like they were setting up the movie. So I had a lot of time, and I would read my script over and over to memorize my dialogue. But then because I read it so much, honestly, I started like catching on to everyone else's thing. And I'd be like, all of a sudden we'd be in rehearsals, and I'd be like, oh, the bartender, and and I'll be singing Jason Lee's lines, and he'd be like, what? How do you know Jay's lines? Anyway, Kevin tells a way better story on when he realized I memorized it, but I do feel like I did better because I had memorized it, so I was able to pull the movie off. But definitely, I feel like now working, I don't focus on that. So definitely, my headspace is a lot clearer and all that. So I would say that's the only thing with the not using drugs now is like now I know I can go shoot a movie for 2 months and not worry about like, oh my God, I don't know any drug dealers out there. How am I going to get opiates and blah blah blah. So it's been a lot better in that sense. You know what I mean? So yeah, I can't really think of any other way that it makes me like I haven't really done any I haven't done a whole lot of different movies yet to see. Like I've wondered how I would have to be if I had to play like a train spotting hardcore junkie. Like either I feel like I'll be really good at it because I know what it's like, and it's not me trying to figure out what it'd be like nodding out. I know what it's like nodding out. Or would it like bum me out? Like I don't want, this makes me feel weird. But I don't know, I don't think it would. So yeah, I think I don't think I've been asked that. I don't think it has done anything except for, again, make me be able to focus more on the what's what. Sorry, you had your hand up. What's up, broski? 12-inch penis? No. More? Yeah, definitely. I mean, not more because I don't like View Askew Kevin stuff, but yeah, I mean, I would like to work more just in general because I just would like to work doing more movie stuff, more really TV stuff, man. I would love to get I'm so obsessed with TV. Like, I honestly haven't watched a whole lot of movies in a while. Like, besides like the Black Panther and all the comic book movies that come out and stuff. Like, I literally spend most of my time, so much so that last month my wife got pissed because I spent $2,320 on iTunes on TV shows. No lie. She got so pissed. She's like, I'm going through all the bills, paying the credit cards, and you spent $2,300 on iTunes. Like, what the F? We have Hulu, we have Netflix, and then I'm like, but you can't download that shit. And I want to download it because I'm traveling a bunch. So, I'll be like, oh my gosh, let me download the whole season of Arrow, and I'll watch it on my 4-hour plane ride to Florida, and then so that's why, and I tried explaining it, but yeah, she got bummed. But anyway, I feel like there's so many awesome TV shows. Like, they're redoing Charmed, which I really love that show. Like, the old series, I've literally watched it 4-5 times through, from like season 1 to 8. And then they're redoing it now. And they're also redoing Roswell, which I like that, and I feel they cut the show off. Like, there were so many other places it could go, but I actually got to work with William Sadler, who was on Roswell, and he told me that the reason it got canceled is because after like the second season, all the kids were like, we're movie stars, we don't want to be doing this. And really the only person I've seen in movies now is Katherine Heigl winded up going into, doing a bunch of movies and stuff like that. But anyway, they're redoing that. I mean, originals, Vampire Diaries, which is canceled now, but all the CW shows I love. Scorpion, Lucifer, which they've canceled, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, there's so many TV shows I personally like and watch, and I just think TV is such an awesome thing. Like, I would love, if you notice too, if you watch shows like, Supernatural, like those guys been on 14, I know, what an awesome show. But if you notice, they produce a lot of those episodes now, and they get to direct episodes even. Like, I don't know, I just think it's such a great, consistent, steady thing. And I mean, Supernatural, I mean, they're another level. These guys get to fly private jets to these cons and frickin', it's like, but again, it's so creative. I think they just did the super Scooby Natural thing. I mean, oh my God. Like, and one of my favorite episodes is when they get to meet themselves. So the two, Sam and Dean, meet themselves, the actors, through the weird time loop, whatever, like, oh, so genius, I think. Anyway, so yes, I would love to do other stuff, other movies and that, and I've gotten lucky, I've done some stuff. No, dude, I'm here all day, motherfucker. Sorry, he's telling me to wrap it up. But no, of course I'd love to do other stuff. I love working with Kevin. Whenever I do stuff with Kevin, I love, because I do feel like our getting to play Jay and Bob definitely is because of our friendship. And I feel like also he hires a lot of times it'll be the same people. Again, it's been a while. He's done Yoga Hosers, but he same script supervisor, if the same transportation people and wardrobe and all that. So like for years when we did Clerks, Mallrats, and Chasing Amy and Dogma, it literally was like the same, not only like a bunch of the same cast, he would get a lot of the same crew. So it was literally like 3 months you spend with all these people, like in Minnesota or freaking Pittsburgh, and it's so much fun. So I would love to do a movie a year with Kevin, and then like on my hiatus from my TV show. This is my best case scenario. That's what I'll say before I go. We have to go. They're telling me to wrap it up. I'm sorry, unless you have a really good one, but I'm not done. But wait, really quick, best case scenario. Boo! Best case scenario, I feel like would be on a TV show that makes it like 15 seasons from now. For me, I'll be an old man, but still, from now 15 seasons, and I get to direct some episodes because I really like directing. I just directed a movie. It's in the Cannes Film Festival right now. It's not in a big part of it. It's like at the small 20-person screening, but I'm excited.